Your students' regulation starts with your regulation. Today, we're diving into the brain science behind why your energy sets the tone and how to stay calm when your class isn't. Are you a Christian teacher exhausted by constant disruptions, overwhelmed by chaos, and simply feeling unheard? Hi friends, I'm Trish, a wayfinder for Christian teachers, educator, and survivor of complex childhood trauma. I've walked hard roads and now help you navigate yours. In the Society's Child podcast, you'll get faith-based encouragement, trauma-informed strategies, and mental health tools to calm behaviors, restore peace, and create real connection in your classroom. You're not alone, my friends. Let's find the way forward together. Hey friends, welcome back to Society's Child. Today, I want to talk about classroom chaos and when you feel frazzled, how that leads to you feeling frenetic. You know, those days when the noise level keeps rising and you feel your patience slipping, or maybe one student's meltdown throws everyone off track and leaves them feeling uncertain, or maybe you're just completely drained by lunchtime and you have nothing left to give. Here's the hard truth. You can't control student behavior, but you can control your own response to that. So when you feel stressed, frazzled, or frenetic, I want you to remember your students pick up on it. You can bring the calm, the steady energy, and your students mirror that too. That's what we call the power of co-regulation. I don't know if you remember, if you were here. If not, go back and listen to the episode where I interviewed Lori DeSottles, and she talked about how our students borrow from our calm. And so today we're going to break this down and we're going to talk about that co-regulation and the brain science behind why students mirror your nervous system, how to reset that energy when things spiral, and a teacher's regulation toolkit. I want to give you some quick strategies that help you stay calm without stopping your lesson. Let's get right to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the science behind it. So the neuroscience of co-regulation, why students mirror your nervous system. Ever notice how one dysregulated student can disrupt the entire classroom? One piece of paper that goes across the room and everybody thinks it's funny. Or one student walks in and they're completely angry and the room energy just goes berserk. Or maybe you've been at that party where someone is there and everybody goes, ugh, that person just walked in the room. That's because humans are wired to absorb each other's emotional states. That's how we are. The brain science fact behind this is that our nervous systems have something we call mirror neurons. These are neurons that cause us to subconsciously pick up on or mimic the emotional energy of anyone around us. So this is where we get the idea that if the teacher is calm and steady and present, students will naturally settle down. If a teacher is tense, frustrated, frazzled, has frenetic energy, the whole class feels that energy. This is called co-regulation. The idea that one regulated student's nervous system can help regulate others. This is the idea that one regulated nervous system can help regulate others. We as the teachers can set the pace and the tone and the energy in our room. So for example, think about a baby that's crying. If the parent panics when they pick up that baby, the baby has a hard time settling down and they just cry more. But if the parent comes to them, soothes them, holds them close, speaks softly, the baby calms down. You might even be feeling that as I'm speaking. You hear me speeding up. You hear me getting anxious. You hear me slowing down and being more soothing. That's called co-regulation. When you listen to something calming, you're listening to another person, you're co-regulating with them. This is what our students do. Our students borrow from our calm. I want you to remember your nervous system sets the temperature for the entire room. There's a lot more science behind this, but you can research it and figure out a lot more. But I want you to remember that. It is so important as you walk into your classroom. You're frenetic and frazzled. Your students will be frenetic and frazzled. So how do we reset this energy when things are spiraling out of control? When the classroom starts to escalate, and I am so guilty of this. I have been in these situations where I am so frustrated and I don't even know what to do. And I just scream at my class, everyone stop talking now. Of course, nobody in the room likes that. The energy goes up. Everybody goes, oh my goodness. Or if I'm yelling, I said sit down. I've done this. It's horrible on the receiving end for the kids. Or I might say, why is no one listening to me? That just shows that I'm frustrated and I'm frazzled. It's raising my stress level, but it also adds more dysregulation to the room. The kids who are not frazzled at this point are going to start becoming uneasy. So instead of getting into the frazzled or into the anxiety or into the stress and escalating your stress level, instead try this. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Now, I know this is counterintuitive to what we're used to. Some of us are used to being raised where the voices are loud, the yelling is a lot, and it's like I say jump and you say how high. And that's sometimes counterintuitive to what we need in the classroom. So this is where I'm asking you to think about how you can lower your voice instead of raising it. And say something like, I'm going to speak quietly now until we're ready to move on. You might have to go to different parts of the room and mimic that and say that over and over so that people can hear you. But most likely the kids that are listening to you and paying attention to you will probably start asking the other kids to settle down. I would also encourage you to slow your movements down so that you're not slamming things around, you're not having some sharp gestures or frantic pacing. Just move deliberately, quietly, and calmly around the room. Hi, friend. I wanted to pause right here and just take a moment to ask you for a special favor. If you are finding anything helpful in this episode or any previous episodes that you've listened to, would you pause right now, go into the Apple Podcast app, scroll down to the bottom of the show, and find the leave a review button. It would be awesome if you would take a moment and follow the show and do this. There are people out there just like you looking for this information, and this would help the algorithm get this into other people's hands, and it would be helpful for them as well. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's one of the biggest favors that you can do for me. I appreciate you and thank you in advance for taking the time to do this. So let's get right back to the show. Most importantly, I would encourage you to regulate yourself first, and this takes awareness. Some people are not even aware of how they show up. They're not even realizing that they're stressed and anxious and tense and coming into the room that way. So sometimes it's about trying to almost visualize yourself standing outside you and asking yourself, how are people receiving me? If I were standing outside of me right now, how would I be receiving myself? And it takes a while to get used to that and thinking like that. And when you start becoming aware of how you show up, you'll learn more techniques on how to regulate yourself. So I would encourage you to take a slow inhale before reacting and be asking yourself, how would I want this said to me? And regulate yourself before speaking. Remember, my friends, dysregulated students cannot calm themselves down alone. They need you. They need to borrow from your calm. So if you're trying to calm them down and you're frustrated, they're going to pick up on that energy, and they cannot calm themselves down without having someone help them do so. Here's what we need to do in terms of regulation. These are practical strategies that will help you stay calm in the moment. So the good news is you don't need extra time to regulate yourself. You just need the right tools. You don't need to stop the class to do some of these things. You can regulate the kids with silent signals, especially if you're in the habit of teaching emotional intelligence or emotional regulation skills to your classroom and you're doing that social emotional learning across the board. They might already have the language and you can just give these signals. So here's some things that you can do in the moment, and these are quick resets. Number one, I love this one. I use this one myself. It's 1 minute box breathing. And I actually extend this a little bit. You breathe in for 4 seconds to the count of 4. Hold it for the count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. And repeat. And now there's science to say that we breathe shallow, especially if we've been affected by trauma. We tend to take shallow breaths, and that oxygen does not get a chance to go down into our body to the very end of the core of our body and do what it needs to do by carrying the oxygen everywhere it needs to go. So when we do this, we are releasing the anxiety and releasing the tension. And where I like to extend this is I go from 4 seconds the first time, then I change it to 5 seconds, then I change it to 6 seconds. The longer I can inhale, hold it, exhale, and hold, it seems like the less tension I'm carrying and holding in my body. Try it sometime. It's really a cool feature, and I did not even know that we could do that. The next thing I like to do is ground myself through senses. And this is what I want to encourage you to do. If you are very anxious, very tense, your mind is spinning, you feel out of control, you feel frazzled, you can start by thinking to yourself, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I need to calm myself down. Pause and name 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you feel, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. If you can't remember this later, just remember what your senses are. Doesn't matter what order you go in. Work through your 5 senses and do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That gets you back into your body, gets you back into the present. Because when we get dysregulated, we sometimes escape mentally, we escape emotionally, and we completely tune out of what's going on in the room, and we're unable to stay regulated. And we've got to be present and calm for our kids, right? So it's important to be able to do this. Those are things that you can do for yourself. So here's some things that you can do for your students. Sometimes the kids, especially if you're teaching this and you're giving them the language for this, they might be able to pick up on this. If you're speaking to them or talking to the class or you're responding or reacting to them, give them a slow blink and a nod. That's a slow way to signal and say, I see you. I'm not rushing you. I hear you. I'm with you. I'm connected to you. You might even give them a shoulder roll, like just start rolling, subtly rolling your shoulders, and remind the students that they might need to take a release break also, and that they may need to do the same thing to release their attention. You can also go into a deep, exaggerated breath. And that signals to the classroom, it's okay. Take a deep breath. There's a lot of tension in the room. Let's all do this together. If the whole class is spiraling, you can take a slow step back, clasp your hands, exhale audibly, and your body language by itself will signal a reset. And it gives the kids in the classroom a signal. Bottom line is, your calm is the anchor. Before you ask your students to settle, check in with yourself first. Becoming aware of how you're showing up, how tense you feel, how frazzled you feel, how anxious you are, and start working from the inside out. And then your students will pick up on that. There you go, my friends. This week, I want you to try something different. So the next time that your class feels frazzled, you feel frazzled, your classroom feels chaotic, pause before reacting to them. Take a deep breath. Slow your movements down and lower your voice. Notice what happens. Your classroom will most likely start to settle. Practice it. Sometimes it may not work on the first try. This is not something that just automatically happens because we can't fake it. We've got to be real with ourselves. Your students don't just need discipline. They need a calm presence to model that regulation. They need to borrow from your calm. They need someone that can regulate with them, because your nervous system is the thermostat of your classroom. So set that temperature wisely, my friends. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the chaos, I want to offer you a little bit of biblical encouragement. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." This is a signal that we can trust in Him. We can get the peace we need from Christ if we will set our mind on Him. My friends, your peace is powerful, even when the room feels out of control, even when you feel frazzled and you're ready to give up. You can be a steady, calming presence. So see you next time, my friends. If this episode spoke to you, please come in and share in the Christian Educator Connection Facebook group. I'd love to hear how you're practicing regulation in your classroom, hear how these episodes are affecting you, or even hear the challenges that you're facing every day. Come join us. I would absolutely love to get to know you over there. I'll see you on the next episode, my friends. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in. If you found anything helpful here, please leave a quick review. It helps more Christian teachers find the support they need. Join us over on Facebook in the Christian Educator Connection group. Search that title or find the link in the show notes. Keep showing up, my friends. Keep leading with grace, and remember, you're not walking this path alone. We're in this together.